In this lesson, we're going to explore the Paint Fluids tool. This is probably one of the most powerful tools within the Fluids set, and I think it's just really amazing at what you could do with just your brush. Let's again start with a blank screen, and I'm going to go ahead and create a emitter with a 2D container. Okay, so let's just move this down a little bit, and let's play this back. Okay, great. And what I'm going to do is, before we get even into this whole system, we're going to notice that our temperature is off and our fuel is off. Okay, I'm going to come down to our shading, and I'm going to go ahead and shade this as a constant black. Okay, that way once we add some heat and fuel, we'll have the incandescence show up. All right, so this is basically what we have. And you'll notice that there's no red or yellow in this simulation. All right. So what if we wanted to paint a little area where we have some temperature and some fuel, other areas? Well, we can do that. All you have to do is select the container, go to Fluid Effects, Add Edit Contents, and we're going to go to the Paint Fluids tool. Now, this is one instance where we want to go to the option box. So we'll activate that, and this will load up the paint attributes for that tool. Now, what we have here is the ability to paint certain attributes. So by default, you're painting density. Well, we already have density being generated dynamically, so we don't want to paint that. Instead, we're going to change this to something like paint temperature. Okay? When you do that, the system is going to say, oh, you're wanting to paint temperature? Well, do you want to set this to dynamic or static? Well, I'm going to go ahead and set this to dynamic, so the temperature will move as we play the simulation. And now, when I click and drag, you'll notice I'm painting an area here that has temperature. And if I play, you notice that it now reacts. Okay. Now, the simulation is not black anymore because it's essentially showing me just my map properties. Now, within here, we can go ahead and paint fuel. Again, we'll set it to dynamic. And I'll paint a little area here where I'm going to give it a large volume of fuel. So it'll eat that up and use it. Again, we can rewind and play. There we go. So we saw that it consumed that and played with it. Now you can check density and fuel. You can paint both of those. There we go. If you come in and paint, you can see exactly how we can add to that. Okay. And you have all these options. I'm going to come back and talk about fall off here in just a little bit. So within just previewing density on a 2D container, that's really about it. You have the ability to adjust your value. So if you wanted to paint with a lighter area, you can. So those are pretty basic settings. Okay. So let's go ahead and rewind this and play it back. And you'll notice now that we have heat, we have fuel, it's all mixing together, and we're getting a pretty cool effect. All right. So 2D containers, very, very simple on that end. However, a 3D container, let's go ahead and create one of those. A 3D container is going to have a number of pieces that are in there. So let's create that, and we'll go ahead and activate our paint tool, and all of a sudden you see this brand new manipulator. Now, yours may be in a different axis, and that's okay, because depending on how we view our scene here, our container, we will have a different angle that we are previewing this from. Okay, so you can see here, this is my z-axis, my x, and if I switch it to this, my y. Now, it could get very hard trying to paint this if I'm painting like right here and I move. Oh gosh, where was it? So one of the options that's kind of nice is this little lock icon, and that's your ability to lock this plane, and now no matter where you are, you can go in and paint this right in, and you're really easily good to go there. There's another option here of these arrows, so you can move up and down your slices and say, okay, if I just want to paint up here, I can paint a little bit, and you can see how this starts to define itself. Okay. Now, next to this little lock icon, you have this little blue circle. And by activating the blue circle, what we're going to get is the ability to create a volume. Okay? And you can adjust the volume with this either scale manipulator or with your middle click and drag. You can do it there. And now, when I paint, I can paint anywhere within this volume. However, it's still only painting on this one plane. It's not using the whole volume. Well, to use a volume, you actually have to come over here and adjust where it says stamp depth. You have to adjust that to a higher number. Now, you'll notice that my manipulator is much longer. And now when I click and drag, I'm going to click and drag within all of those sections or all of those voxel planes. Okay. One nice feature that I really like about this is, what if you want to have the entire slice here, this whole region, full of particle data? No problem. Just hit the flood icon. Now all of those contain data. And here you can now go in and say, all right, let me replace some of these with a value of 0. So if I wanted to punch out a hole, I could. Just like that. Now, if you click the blue circle again, you'll get a much smaller slice. So you have that option. And then you can go back to a single slice as well. Again, unlock it, and you can pick any plane that you want to work in, relock it, and now as you paint with these values, you're starting to paint that right into that system. So again, very, very useful. Totally depends on how you like to work. But this will give you a lot of control on exactly where you're painting and not painting. Now in the next lesson, we're going to talk about fall off and how we can control exactly what areas get rendered.